Hello, Do We Have to crew? Welcome to another edition of Do We Have to, a marriage podcast. I'm your host, Sean, and I think you'll be surprised that there is a very detrimental absence today, and that is my wonderful wife, Emily, who is my co-host on this wonderful show, Do We Have to, a marriage podcast. She unfortunately was hit by the COVID bug, and she is out. It wasn't a asymptomatic situation by any means. She has been laying in bed, and I have been taking up the Miller mantle that she so proudly carries, taking the kids to all their activities, hitting up school events, and doing all the running and backs and forth. And I tell you what, to all the moms out there or dads that do a majority of that work in the marriage dichotomy, hats off to you. It has been it's been a process, but Emily is on the mend. She's actually up napping right now as we speak. She has no idea of recording this. But Uncle Colin, our executive producer, Colin Schmedium-Maskell, I let him know that, hey, Emily's been really sick. I mean, to the point where she can't really get up and move around. COVID's got her real bad. I think what we'll do is we'll just, put some more shorts out for next week, and we probably won't need to do an episode. We'll just put out a message on social media to the wonderful 3,900 Do We Have to follower crew and let them know that, hey, we'll come back and we'll bring you content next week. Colin went silent. There was a lot of those bubbles that pop up where it was typing and then it would go away. And here we are. We are recording, and I'm going to be bringing it to you. So again, thank you for everybody who's been listening to the show. We're going to be dropping a few things to you guys today, specifically what we're going to be talking about on next week's episode, because I will not be doing a full episode without Emily. I refuse to do so. Even if members of the executive team that produce the show feel the need to cart me out here like a performing monkey, I will not do a full episode. But what we will be doing today, which you can follow, subscribe, follow at youtube.com/@DoWeHaveTo, a marriage podcast. That's where the video recording of our show is, or you can reach us on all major podcast apps. We will be today touching on what we'll be discussing next week's, which is flags, and I'll get into that in a moment. I'm going to hit you with a little 90s nostalgia because we have to stay consistent. If you're going to have a disciplined lifestyle, even when you're on the mend, you're sick, you're not feeling well, you obviously have to still do the things that are necessary to do. And one of those is 90s nostalgia. And I will actually be getting deep today by myself with the wonderful Do We Have To crew. So sit back and relax, because this is a not actual Family Studios production. And again, as I mentioned earlier, and who has in no way forced me to record this today, our executive producer, Colin Schmedium-Maskell. So as I had mentioned, Emily and I will be getting together next week. We're going to be going over relationship flags. We've been diving a ton into the world of Taylor Swift. We thought it would be time to get back to speaking on things relationship oriented. And one of them specifically, which we've gotten questions on, is how did Emily and I know? What were the flags or the signs that Emily and I knew that her and I were the one? And what were flags in our previous relationships where we look back on and we were like, we should have known those were not relationships for us, that were going to be long-lasting, successful relationships. And so when it comes to the relationships, everyone talks about red flags, and I'm just finding this out myself, there's things called beige flags, more subtle, quirky types of things that you really should take a look at and run from, right? The annoying habits are not exactly harmful, but just sometimes still can test your patience. And things that may over a period of time add up to something bigger that might affect the relationship, right? And then, of course, green flags, which are, what are the things we look for in relationships? How can you find your Emily? How can you find your Sean? They're out there for you. And we're going to talk about that. We're going to dive deep into that next week's show. If you have any questions or anything you'd like us to address, go to dowehaveto.com. Tell us about the flags you've seen in your relationships, the ones that haven't worked, the ones that are working successfully today. Tell us what beige flags that you've picked up on that you didn't realize really were flags, but something that led to either bigger things or things that you were able to work through, but you wish you had kind of thought about it ahead of time. dowehaveto.com. Join our mailing list. Submit a question to the show. We'll talk about it next week. And again, everything is being streamed today on YouTube, youtube.com/@DoWeHaveTo, a marriage podcast. Now, as everybody who listens to the show know, if this is your first time listening, thank you so much for joining, and welcome to the Do We Have To crew. But our biggest thing is 90s nostalgia. And so the 90s nostalgia itself, Emily and I were babies of the 80s, but we're children of the 90s. And we are, we like to dive back into that. We like to remember the past. We like to talk about the things that we grew up with as kids. And a lot of the folks that are in our age bracket do as well. And so this is no different. And we dove into, this week is specifically with our wonderful ChatGPT AI. It is August 31st through September 6th. And there were some nuggets in there. So let me tell you specifically. There was some good stuff. So 1990, at the end of the month, so right at the end of August, I think it was September 1st, the MTV Video Music Awards aired for the first time. Madonna, I guess, was a lead headliner in that for Strike a Pose. The Video Music Awards were a big thing. I don't know if you were a kid back then, and if you're somebody who didn't really experience MTV in the way that it kind of evolved around your life, I would put VHS tapes in my parents' VCR, and I would record videos. I remember like 1996, 1987, Hypnotized by Notorious Big. I think I watched that on VHS tape probably about 1,500 times. Missy Elliott's Fly, or Super Duper Fly, as I believe the song was called, where she just danced around in a trash bag. There's really nothing to it, but for some reason, I just jammed to it a ton. Fast forward, you've got things like Blink-182's initial, it wasn't their initial album, but their mainstream song or their initial song, What's My Age Again, from Enema of the State, all those types of things. And of course, that obviously parlayed into how big the Video Music Awards got. And of course, then there was also the MTV Movie Awards as well. Both were fantastic watches, something that I recorded and watched over and over again. And were certainly a part of a lot of kids my age from my middle school, high school years that was on their TV. The Backstreet Boys debuted in 1995, and I believe that was September 5th. They released their debut single, We've Got It Going On, and that was the emergence of one of the greatest Backstreet Boys of all time. They actually got me in a bar fight, one of their albums. I Want It That Way got me into a major bar fight. Got my brother into a bar fight, which then involved me getting into a bar fight in North Platte, Nebraska. Shout out North Platte, Nebraska, the wonderful Hub Bar. I think statute of limitations, I think we're solid now. So it's been several years. But yeah, it was a good time. And I owe that to the Backstreet Boys. Spent a lot of time listening to their albums. Matter of fact, a little side note, Uncle Will, shout out Uncle Will. We used to, in middle school and early high school, we would call girls and we would leave voicemails. And normally when we left a voicemail on their answering machine, I shouldn't say voicemail like a cell phone. We didn't have a cell phone back then. We'd call on a landline or a rotary phone. We would get the big chunky boxed answering machine. We would leave a message on their phone, and typically it would be some sort of either R&B song or boy band song. And I Want It That Way was usually a pretty popular one with us. So we would leave that. That's how we would leave messages to girls back in our day in middle school and high school. Feel free to copy that. 1996, let's see here. That's just a general rise of alternative music. Another big one, in 1997 on August 31st, Princess Diana's death. I'm actually very sad Emily's not here to talk about that. We're huge fans of The Crown. Obviously, there's a big piece of Princess Diana being a part of that. She, obviously was in a car accident because paparazzi were chasing her. That was a whole big thing. And obviously the turmoil within the royal family, how they handled her death. Not really saying a whole lot about it or really honoring her initially right up front, right? And then their relationship with the royal family, because she obviously got a divorce from her husband, who's now the King of England. So that is one of the biggest events I know from a pop culture perspective that occurred, and people still talk about it today. And obviously, it's a banger of a Netflix original series, The Crown. Highly recommend. Check it out. And then I think that's about it. I think that wraps up pretty much everything in regards to general pop culture or events. Now, there was some cool products that some of them I didn't remember, but I do remember just them. And then some I definitely remember. So early September, 1996, a Game Boy Pocket was released. I think this was released initially in Japan around that time, and then maybe a little bit later in the fall in the US. But it was essentially like the commercial was that it was a Game Boy you could fit in your jeans pocket. So I'm sure everybody's familiar with the game. It's a Nintendo system that was put into a small compact box that allowed you to play Nintendo games that you normally used to playing on the main system itself. And, you could take it around. You had the little cartridges and all that sort of fun. A lot of fun, a lot of good memories. I know a lot of people that I talked to, they're my age, played the different Pokemons on it. There's Super Mario Brothers games, Donkey Kong, etc. I mean, there was a ton of other games for it, but this was one when things were starting to get more sleek and small, which of course led into the other things like cell phones and that sort of thing. But this is where Nintendo was getting in on that game, and that was where it was released. Another craze in 1993, end of August, early September. It didn't give an exact date, but this is when the Beanie Baby craze started. So I'm sure, boy and girl alike, there's plenty of us 90s kids out there that collected Beanie Babies. I think even there was a time where McDonald's had a thing where you can get Beanie Babies in your Happy Meals. So there's probably not a single damn 90s child in the world, or at least in the US, that didn't have some sort of interaction with Beanie Baby. And everybody thought they were eventually going to be a millionaire when they kept them. Now they're just all sitting in our basement and have no value other than nostalgia. By the way, Emily does, or used to, I guess at least, have a lot of Beanie Babies. I think there's a lore or a myth out there that they're somewhere in her parents' basement. I haven't seen them yet, but I know she has them and probably has a overall value of probably about 10 or 15 bucks, but she talks about them all the time. Super Nintendo released at the end of August in 1991. One of my favorite gaming systems. I would definitely say Super Mario Brothers for the Super Nintendo is probably one of my favorite games of all time. I absolutely loved it. A lot of secret levels, lots of things to do. It took me until I was in college. So it came out in 91. That's when I was in 7. It took me till college to 100% complete it. That gives you an indication. Also, Super Punch-Out, big time banger. Loved it. Pogs, Power Rangers toy line, Tamagotchi, Polly Pocket, Game Boy Color, Tickle Me Elmo, Transformers, My Little Pony. They all had different types of product, not meaning like the initial product was released, but they had some sort of variation of the product or subset of the product that was released around these times in the various years of the 90s, which I thought was pretty cool. And I know, growing up, Power Rangers was a huge thing for my brother Connor, and I enjoyed the show, but I just kind of aged out of that, so I wasn't as into it. But man, popular toys. Transformers are always a good one. The Tickle Me Elmo, right? Bonnie Bell Lip Smackers, Gap's Dream Perfume, all of those products released in the fall around this time in the 90s. So, just tell us what you're, if you remember any of these products, if you have any special stories about them, tell me your Beanie Baby nightmares. Tell me your Beanie Baby dreams, right? Let me know about the favorite video games you were playing on the Game Boy or the Super Nintendo. Go to dowehavето.com or comment on this show that is going to be out on youtube.com/@dowehavetoa marriage podcast. Let us know what you were doing. Tell us about it. We'll read it on the air, possibly, as long as it was appropriate and it's nice. But yeah, we can discuss it. Let us know if you have any questions about 90s nostalgia. Also, if you have a good idea for a different name for the 90s segment besides 90s nostalgia, we're open to it. We're thinking about giving a permanent name to it. So again, dowehavето.com. Now, as we like to get deep in the 90s, Emily and I, we always have a segment where we play Let's Get Deep. Now, Let's Get Deep is a game by ByRelatable is actually the company name. So when I say ByRelatable is actually the full name. It was featured on Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, which is a Hulu banger. Highly recommend. They played the friend version. So they have this version, which is kind of like getting to know a partner, kind of more on a dating or established relationship side. They have a friends version, and then they have a version for the sexy time. You can get those at Target or Amazon. They do not sponsor the show, but I'm just letting you know where you can get it because it is a very fun game to play. I'm going to challenge the Do We Have To crew when I pull this question up that I pulled for us. It's a deeper question, and it is very appropriate to what we're going to be talking about next week, is to go to dowehavето.com, submit a response to this question. Let us know. And the question is, what's one belief you had about love or marriage when you were younger that you no longer believe, and what changed your mind? So I thought about this, and I actually read this question maybe 10 minutes before I got all the equipment up because our executive producer team felt the need that we needed to make sure and, get content out to the wonderful Do We Have To crew, which I absolutely agree. I did think about this, and I think my biggest transition from when I was younger to now, especially, and I'd love to hear or be curious what Emily thinks about this, is feeling like when you are in an established relationship that you have to make it work no matter what. I think we've been inundated with a lot of like media content, especially when we were younger, like movies and TV, where even if a relationship wasn't in good standing or there's flags, so to speak, you kind of have to figure it out and make it work, because love means like no matter what, you just do it, right? And you make it work. And that means you're going to end up being happily ever after. I think as I've grown and evolved as a human being, that's probably the most opposite advice I wish I would have given myself or had the mindset of as I navigated through life. Doesn't mean I wouldn't have had relationships that didn't work out. I mean, that's the point. Understanding that there's going to be a lot of relationships, 99% of them, that aren't going to work out. And what they're meant to do is teach you and allow you to learn about who you want to be or have as your partner. And instead, I focused on, even when I was in these negative relationships, and they weren't just negative because I was with somebody negative. I mean, what I brought to the table, what they brought to the table, created a negative, toxic environment. And instead of trying to learn from that and then move on and grow and meet somebody that fit what I needed and what they could get from me, I would continue to try to make it work to the point where it was painful and it would always end into a bad breakup. And I think anybody I was ever with before Emily would agree with that. Not that all my relationships ended poorly, but it's just we hung in there way too long. And I think a part of it is the stubbornness of thinking, well, you have to make it work. And that's not always the case. And like I said, I mean, I think the best advice I'm going to end up hopefully giving my kids is you expect a relationship to likely not work out. But these are things to teach you and allow you to learn socially, to understand what you bring to the table, what you want to be brought to the table in regards to a relationship, and where would that ultimately lead with a long-term partner, if that's even something you want. And I think that's another thing too, is I just had the expectation in my mind that I always expected myself to have to get married and have to have a family and those sorts of things. And I think that pushed that pressure of remaining in relationships that I wasn't giving that person what they needed. They weren't giving me what I needed. And we weren't giving each other what we need to be a healthy couple. And unfortunately, I probably would have avoided myself a lot of stress and unnecessary anxiety and drama in multiple relationships. So that would be my answer to the question. But do we have to, crew? Let me know. What's one belief you've had about love or marriage when you were younger that you no longer believe, and what changed your mind? DoWeHaveTo.com. Join our mailing list. Submit a question to the show. That's a little section you can hit. Join our mailing list, but you don't have to join it. There's this little box you can check on. Just feel free to submit a question to the show or a comment. Let us know what the answer is. I assume we'll have some sort of short associated with this question, so feel free to comment on that. We're available on all socials, Facebook, Instagram, Threads at do.we.have.to. Like I mentioned, YouTube, we're youtube.com/@do-we-have-to-a-marriage-podcast. TikTok, we're at do-we-have-to-marriage-pod. And we are available pretty much on every social media. Same thing with Twitter, or well, I guess say X, formerly known as Twitter as well. Also, since we have gotten deep, Emily and I have also been getting deep on a fitness journey. So if you're first listening, it's just your first time listening to the show, or if you haven't gotten this far in the show, which totally understandable, and by some of our statistics, so several of our users like to usually listen to the first 15 minutes and bog off. That's absolutely fine. But at the end of the show, we always like to talk about our Peloton team, but we also talk about our weight loss journey. So Emily and I, when we were just as of a few years ago, I was at almost 400 pounds. Emily was well into 300 pounds. And we decided together that we were going to do everything necessary that we could to not only elongate our lives for our children, but allow us to have more quality time with each other, with our children, and with ourselves. And so we decided to get gastric bypass surgery. We started intently working out, eating better. And both her and I'm down almost 210 pounds. Emily is down, well over 150 pounds. And we've been keeping that off consistently, both with the support of the surgery, which is really a tool. It's not a fix, I'll tell you. And if you guys have any questions on gastric bypass surgery or weight loss surgery, Again, submit a question to the show, dowehavето.com. We'd be more than happy to answer them on air. I assume at some point we'll tackle our full weight loss journey kind of from beginning to where we are now on the podcast, because that is something we get questions about all the time. But in the meantime, if you have any specific questions, certainly let us know. But we have a Peloton team now. And that Peloton team's been growing every week. And I actually have my phone handy on me. Since Emily's not here, I've stole her phone while she was sleeping to make all the recording. Now that I say that, I really hope I didn't get the vid all over myself, but because I didn't disinfect it. But I'm sure I'll be fine. But we have quite a crew. The name of the Peloton team is Do We Have To Crew. So you can join that. You can actually add me on Peloton as well. I'm at Do We Have To Pod KC. I'm actually currently on a 122-day streak, and that's of at least lifting and or running, normally both. I think there's only been 3 or 4 days out of that 122 total where I only did one. And I have an 11-year-old child, his name is Moose, who has done that entire journey with me. He's in the middle of football season now. Go Necco Raiders. We're still doing that every day. And the team itself, like I had mentioned, is the Do We Have To crew. As of last week, we're going to take a look at the weekly stats. Every week we announce the top 20 as far as workout time, meaning in their workouts, how long they've worked out throughout a 7-day period. And now that we have so many people, it is getting quite competitive. So let me take a look on our feed here. Last week, from August 25th to the August 31st, there was a total of 208 hours worked out on our team, which is amazing. And in that, we have our top 20, Krabby Cakes, who's out of London, England. We have a London, England Do We Have To crew member and team member on Peloton. We actually have 2, and they are consistently in the top 2. But she was number 1, 21 hours, 33 minutes. Brown Eyes 19, Birmingham, UK, 18 hours, 10 minutes. Barbie Gal, Kansas City, 17 hours, 51 minutes. Pelodano Soras, 10 hours, 1 minute. Rock Chalk Stelts, number 5, 9 hours, 52 minutes. Number 6, 6th place, Michaela Bryn, 8 hours, 3 minutes. Fit Queen Lisa coming in at 7th, 7 hours, 57 minutes. Do We Have To Pod KC, just filling in the back. Number 8, 7 hours and 4 minutes. Shanna Banana Can, 6 hours and 30 minutes at number 9. Number 10, Stacy Osterthon, a fellow Mizzou Tiger, 6 hours and 19 minutes. In 11th place, Pelo Junkie from Tacoma, Washington, 6 hours and 15 minutes. Tied, actually, with another 11th place, 6 hours, 15 minutes, Inspired Jayhawk in the Kansas City area. Number 12 from Garwood, Texas, Kelsey Lifts at 6 hours. Go Unicorn Go from KC, 5 hours and 30 minutes. KC Lama out of Kansas City, 5 hours, 1 minute. Relentless KC, 4 hours and 52 minutes. I miss your shirtless selfie you had on there. I really wish you'd change that back. Number 16, Not a Runner Katie, Iowa Raised, Kansas Teacher, 4 hours and 43 minutes. Shout out to all our teachers out there. Jess, number 17, Jess Crazy Boys, 4 hours and 41 minutes. Alex Runs, my former boss, 4 hours and 33 minutes out of Lee Summit, Missouri. And then Okie to the Dock from Mission, Kansas, 4 hours and 19 minutes. Every week, we announce the top 20. It's quite a competitive environment now because we have so many people on the Do We Have To crew team. So again, follow me, join our team, the Do We Have To crew. Again, you can join me. I'm at Do We Have To Pod KC, and we'll add you to the team, and we will compete every single week. Sometimes we do monthly challenges too. Once this team grows and as this YouTube channel grows, I imagine we'll be looking at doing some fun prizes and those sorts of things as we continue on in the Peloton fitness journey, along with our wonderful project, Do We Have To, a marriage podcast. So everybody out there, thank you so much for taking time to listen to me today without Emily. I know her voice sounds a lot prettier than mine. She usually is much less aggressive. She's nicer calling our executive producer. So I do appreciate you all just listening in, taking your time. And I hope everybody has had a wonderful extended holiday with the Labor Day that just came past. Hopefully the adjustment back to it with school, children, family, and all those sorts of things was as smooth as possible. And again, thank you everybody for the Do We Have To crew. We greatly appreciate it. Emily and I love doing this show. And we'll continue to bring you more content. Be on the lookout for next Friday's release of our Flags episode and getting deep in those discussions. And we'll come back at you with 90s nostalgia, our Let's Get Deep, and review our Peloton fitness team and the results. So go out there, Be kind, as Emily would always say, learn something. And as I always say, don't be an asshole.
Wake up, I'm about to shake up every little thing, show you all that we can be. Come dance in my club.